Hello and welcome back to Cheesy Dan Reviews. I'm Cheesy Dan. This channel is the perfect place for the picky eater to pick their preferred piece of pizza. Today we're going to be reviewing the Homeruninn cheese pizza. It's one I haven't come across before, but I was recommended, so we're going to give it a shot. We're going to pick it up, take it home, we're going to heat it up, cut it up, give it initial appearance, a value score, a day one taste, put it in the fridge, and come back on day three to get its day three reheat score so we can find out what its cheesy score is, so you'll know if this cheese is worth your dough. So stick with us. Welcome to Cheesy Dan's Reviews. As always, I'm Cheesy Dan. Today, we're going to be reviewing Chicago's Homeruninn cheese pizza. Now this pizza is unique because it's made in Chicago, and specifically they're called the Homeruninn because apparently at one point their pizza restaurant had a baseball that was hit out of the park that went through their front window, so they named their restaurant Homeruninn. This is a native of Chicago, and I was actually recommended this by one of my viewers, and he told me to give this pizza a try, so I thought let's go ahead and let's do it. So there's nothing left to do but open it up and let's see what our initial impression is. Well, I'll tell you what, initial impressions, this has a lot of cheese coverage. It definitely is covering from the very edge, so much so that almost for a second I couldn't tell which side was which. But yeah, definitely a lot of cheese. And they say that this one comes somewhat pre-cooked, so the pizza is already melted, and you can actually see that here. And the fact that the pizza itself, you're not seeing the individual pieces of cheese because they pre-melted it. However, they tell you to cook it at 450 degrees for about 15 or 17 minutes to get it fully cooked and ready to eat. So let's go ahead and let's get it out of this bag and get it on the pizza stone and get it ready to cook. All right, yeah, now that it's out, looks pretty good. I'd almost say it kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Little Caesars style pizza, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. As you can see, it's had a chance to cool off a little bit, and the Chicago's Homeruninn pizza does look very good. It is a little reminiscent almost of a Little Caesars style pizza, even the way it finishes out. If you look at it from the side, you can actually see that it doesn't rise a whole lot, so it stays as a rather thin pizza, but that's mainly just because, again, it is pre-cooked just a little bit from the factory before you get it. And then once they freeze and send it to you, the cheese doesn't really have to melt that much and the bread doesn't have to rise that much. So at this point, the next stage for us is for us to go ahead and give it an appearance score. I would say my initial appearance score on this one, I'm gonna put it about a 7.5. I do think it's a good pizza. I think it looks appetizing. It is very reminiscent of a Little Caesars, which is, could be a good or a bad thing depending on your view of Little Caesars. But now that it's had a chance to cool off and we've gotten the appearance score, then I guess the very next thing we can do is we can cut it up. Now we're gonna do it a little bit different. If you notice, one of the things they like to advertise is their square cut pizza, because that is a common style of cutting, and especially up in Chicago. So we're gonna follow the instructions and we're gonna square cut it like it says. But this time we're not gonna use a wheel style cutter. I've got a new toy.
So do you like it?
I've got this, I guess they call it a rocker style pizza cutter. It comes with a nice little cover. This one's made by Checkered Chef. I've actually got a chance to use it one time before, and it is mighty sharp.
One of these days it will kill him.
So you do have to be careful with it, but it does make cutting the pizza a whole lot easier. So let's go ahead and let's cut it. Not too bad if I don't say so myself.
Aren't you getting ahead of yourself?
Now, we just need to pick a slice and hopefully not burn ourselves in the process. Let's see. I'm gonna go for this piece right here. Question is, did I do a good enough job cutting it? I don't think I did.
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
I can't blame the cutter for that. That's definitely my fault.
I'm sure I'll figure it out eventually.
Well, it's got a nice little cheese pull to it, as you can see here. Overall, good cheese coverage. I guess we're just gonna go ahead and take this in there and give it its taste test. Now that it's had a chance to cool off quite a bit, and we got through that hard part of cutting, I guess I'm not exactly cut out for that. It looks pretty good. It's time for its initial taste, but I will say I think I'm gonna go ahead and give it its value at this point. With this pizza coming in just a little under $11, of course you may be able to find a little bit cheaper at your local grocery store. It is a little bit on the higher end of things when it comes to the at-home bake style pizzas. I'm gonna put this one at a value score of 4. So right now we have an initial appearance of 7.5. We have a value score of 4. Let's give it its taste. So the cheese, excuse me, so the cheese is good. The crust itself is flaky, and it does have a little bit of a taste, or a little bit of, of a texture, similar to eating a Little Caesars thin crust cheese pizza. The sauce itself is definitely different. I would have to say I'm not actually accustomed to that style taste of sauce. It's not sweet. It's more of a, I hate to say bitter, but it's a little bit deeper or stronger of a taste. So when you bite into the pizza, I feel like you taste the sauce more than you do the cheese, and even more than you do the bread. It's not necessarily a bad taste. It's probably a very common to Chicago style as far as the pizza sauce base goes. I do myself have kind of a preference towards a more sweeter taste for the pizza sauce. So for me, it's not necessarily a negative, but it's not something that is my favorite thing, I guess, to put it that way. But it really is a good looking pizza, as you can see here. So for a day 1 score, I'm gonna put this one at a 5, mainly because the sauce is just not my cup of tea. Not a bad start. It is an enjoyable pizza, something that, especially if you like that style of sauce, not a sweet style sauce, that you would be a huge fan of it. The only thing left to do now is take a slice, put it in the fridge, come back on day 3, and see how the cheesy score finishes out.
3 days later.
Welcome back for day 3 of the homeruninn cheese pizza. We've gotten it out of the fridge. Now you can see it here in the bag. It has held up pretty well. In fact, now that it's in the Ziploc bag here, you can kind of get a look at the finish of the crust. It does have a golden brown finish. They described it as a butter crust. And so you can kind of see that. The crust is a nice finish. The cheese held up pretty well. Doesn't look a whole lot different than it did on day 1. So I guess at this point, we're gonna stick it inside the air fry oven, and we're gonna let it warm up, get the cheese melted a little bit, and then we're gonna take it out, give it a taste, give it its day 3 score so we can find out what its cheesy score is and see how it stacks up against the competition. So let's do that. Let's put it inside. Let's let it heat up. Now the pizza's had a chance to heat up and get warm again. We're gonna let it cool off for just a little bit because no one likes their pizza with a side of 2nd-degree burns.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
and we're gonna cool it off, take our test, and take a bite and see what we think. So, see you in just a moment. Now that it's had a chance to cool off, it's time to go ahead and give it its day 3 score. So, let's take a bite.
Yum yum.
I'm going to say that it hasn't really degraded too much, and that's a good thing, of course. When it can store for a little bit of time, you can come back and eat it. The crust, especially reheated in that air fry oven, it stayed crispy. A little bit dried out, but that's going to be expected just because of being reheated for the second time. Actually, I guess technically you could say it's the third time, because they describe this pizza as being somewhat pre-cooked from the factory. And then, of course, you cook it when you're ready to eat it. Now we're reheating it now, so it's technically the third heat, I guess. So getting a chance to look at it now, it does hold up pretty well. The cheese, again, it's a nice finish. The taste isn't too bad. I would say that the only thing I'm not a fan of, and I mentioned this on day 1, it's going to be the pizza sauce itself. My kids, as I showed you, they kind of described it as having a bit of a ketchup-like taste. You could definitely say it's being honest to the tomato sauce. It's not adding a lot of additives. And of course, for the people that are really into the tomato sauce and the original flavor of the tomatoes, that would definitely be something they would consider to be a positive. Because I'm the one scoring it, it's not something that I'm a huge fan of, and that's what played a big part in its day 1 score, and that's also going to play a part in its day 3 score. I'm just going to degrade it just a little bit, which is pretty common on day 3, and make it a 4.5. So with putting this one then at for a day 3 score of 4.5, that gives us a final score, a cheesy score of 5.25. Now 5.25, it's going to put it just slightly above the Totino's Party Pizza, above the DiGiorno 5-cheese stuffed crust pizza, but it is going to come in below this, the Screamin' Sicilian, and below Cece's and the like. So with that score, it does come in towards the bottom. Maybe you've had this one before and you have strong feelings about it. Hey, put those in the comments. Everybody's got their own opinion, their own taste. But for me, this score comes in at a 5.25, and it does finish a little bit lower on the pack. So I guess when it comes to this pizza, if you're into that type of a sauce, this is going to be a huge win for you. If you're not, then maybe it's a pizza you want to pass on. So I appreciate you spending the time with me today and getting a chance to watch this review. If you did like it, remember to subscribe, to like, to comment, share this with friends. That's how this channel grows. That's how we can share more of the Cheesy Dan reviews with those around us.
Didn't I beg you?
And hopefully build this channel up. But until we eat again, stay cheesy.